Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 539, The Province of the Saved. Now this is another poem about death, about the grave, no doubt. It's another theodicy, the question of why must there be pain and suffering. And as we have said in earlier lectures, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hopeful that you worked through our set of introductory comments where we talked about our big five in room 303. What does this text say about epistemology, what you can know, ontology, who you are, psychology, the study of the individual mind, sociology, the study of the collective mind, and then finally the last of our big five was what? Theodicy, T-H-E-O-D-I-C-Y, theodicy, the question of pain and suffering. How do you deal with that pain and suffering, as we have said a number of times? For Emily, the question seems to be less, why did this happen to me? And increasingly more for her, why did this happen for me? The possibility that pain or sorrow is somehow propedeutic, it's instructional in some way. Now, Emily, in this poem, is going to be saying that somehow she survived the very cold that she referenced in poem 538. And our assumption is that you've been reading with us and you've read the previous 538 poems. And if you have, then you know this is not new territory for us. Emily has a number of times asked the question, what does it mean to survive through pain and suffering, sorrow, and, if you will, to somehow survive the cold? In the last poem we saw that. Maybe the question of this poem is more aptly to the point. How can I acclimate to the pain? And who is it that best acclimates to the pain? She'll say it this way. The province of the saved should be the art to save. Through skill obtained in themselves, the science of the grave. No man can understand but he that hath endured the desolation in himself. That man be qualified to qualify despair to those who failing new mistake defeat for death each time till acclimated to. Now, this use of the word to we're going to come back to in this poem. It's quite remarkable. Notice she begins with the idea, the province, the territory of the saved, those who have gone through the pain, those who are no longer worrying about being lost. Yes, obviously, there is a religious overlay reading of this poem, no doubt. The province of the saved should be the art to save. And again, for the first time, she'll use this word to, which will come back at the end of the poem, repeated again and again. What has she said already? Well, it seems as if she's arguing that it is only left to those who have been lost and then saved, can we say found? Only to those people can they truly understand the province of what salvation is. Now, obviously, this sounds a whole lot like what she's already said in that famous poem 67, success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed, right? Not one of all the purple hosts who took the flag today can tell the definition so clear of victory as he defeated dying, on whose forbidden ear the distant strains burst agonized and clear. She says there, here it's the saved. Only the saved really understand what it's like to be lost. Only the saved. Then she'll say it. She says the province of the saved should be the art to save through skill obtained in themselves, the science of the grave. Now, some have read this as, whoa, wait a minute. If we're reading this as theology, God saves. But look what you just read. They save themselves? If that is what she is saying, then obviously there's a little bit of heretical language going on here. But I think the point Emily's making here is that you've got to go through your own pain and your own sorrow. Once you've come out on the other side of that, then and only then can you actually talk about real pain and real sorrow and salvation, or moving beyond it. No man, she says it this way, and by man here she obviously means humans, no man can understand but he that hath endured the dissolution. By the way, dissolution she will only use two other times, 560 and 1419. In himself, or back to in themselves, that man be qualified. Whoa. Now here it is. This is her theodicy. The only way that you can appreciate salvation, of however you're going to define that, whether it's theological or something other, is to have gone through the process of being lost and then possibly found, or to escape whatever it is that is going to take you down. That's the only person qualified. The dissolution that would ultimately lead to your end, the science of the grave. She says only that individual is able to qualify despair. I told you guys, she uses this word despair in 31 of her poems. It's fascinating to study Emily's use of the word despair. Only those who have gone through the fire, if you will, can really qualify despair to those who, failing new. By the way, the brilliance of her use of the word new here is that it can also be K-N-E-W, although she spelled it as new. In other words, recently failed, mistake defeat for death each time till acclimated to. And that's how she ends the poem, with the dash and the to and the dash. The defeat for death is mistaken. In other words, many people believe that once they are defeated, that is a form of death. The science of the grave, however, for Emily is no. Just because you're defeated, just because you're down, just because you're lost, does not mean that you cannot be saved. As a matter of fact, the only people who are ever saved are the lost. There's no point in talking about salvation until you recognize lost. And she says, that is the individual who actually can qualify what true despair is all about. In other words, it's only despair once you've gotten through it. And once you're on the other side of it, then you can begin to acclimate to it. Now, this word acclimate is coming back for us in 942, only 2 more times when we study it. We'll come back to it. 942, she'll play the game this way. Snow beneath whose chilly softness some that never lay make their first repose this winter, I admonish thee. Blanket wealthier the neighbor, we so new bestow, than thine acclimated creature wilt thou austere snow. And then when we come back to 1425, we'll play the game one more time. She'll say it this way. The inundation of the spring enlarges every soul. It sweeps the tenement away, but leaves the water whole, in which the soul, at first estranged, seeks faintly for its shore, but acclimated pines no more for that peninsula. What is the argument that she seems to be making at 2a? I think her argument is the only way to get through a life of despair is to get through the despair. And on the other side of it, to ask, why did it happen for me? Not why did it happen to me. Note the irony that she keeps using the word to, but she believes that the correct use of that word, of talking about pain and suffering, is for. As in, why did it happen for me? We have said this many times. Emily teaches this concept in a number of her poems, that when you ask after something terrible has happened, can we say despair? When we are in the middle of it, when we're in the middle of the pain, to ask, why did this happen to me, is an unanswerable question. Because whatever anybody gives back to you as an answer, you can always come back with, well, yeah, but why? Why did that happen? Why was it allowed? But when you change the to a for, and you ask, why did this happen for me? Now you are no longer picturing yourself as some kind of victim in the universe that's doing things to you, but rather you have some control, you have some power to be able to affect your life's decisions, as in acclimate. At 2b, well, the word choice here is fun, in and to as well. And a scholar, Miller, has pointed out that there is a hypotactic syntax at play here, the active relationship between the saved and the lost. I'll let you guys run that one to ground in your own study. At 3a, well, notice again all of the poems of despair of Emily. She'll say, of course, in 67, it's only the losers who understand success. Success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed. And then in 241, you'll remember it. I like a look of agony because I know it's true. Finally, at 3b, what was a time in your own life when you had to acclimate to the science of the grave, to despair, to pain, to suffering? Thank you.